Welcome back, Mike, to the program. I am so excited you said yes to join us for our series on men.
I was excited to be asked.
Good. It's always a pleasure to speak with you. I always have a lot of fun with our conversations. Is there anything you want the listeners to know about you as we get started here?
My goodness, I would say probably one of the most exciting things in my life is I have a transition of work. I'm finally retiring, from my
Yay.
main job. So it's gosh, it's such it's a scary and exciting thing all at the same time. I have been working since I was 14, so
Mm.
it's that's a thing for me.
And I really marvel at the fact that we can really strongly feel both, two things seemingly opposing at the same time, scary and excited.
Hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes.
I feel a lot of times with big challenges in life, there's always that little bit of excitement. It's like a cross between fear and elation. It's not a terrifying thing, but it's I don't know what to expect, so it's gonna be fun.
Yes. And that word elation, what a good word that is. We got
Hmm.
to bring that back. I like that
Yes.
word. That's a good one. Okay, well, when is your last day? I can't help but ask.
6 months from now. So
Yay.
yep, right at the towards the end of December. So
Yes.
yes, so I'm excited. It'll be one day after my birthday. So
Yay. Well,
December
wonderful.
24th. Yep.
Okay, fantastic. Good for you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mike, let's go. What is a skill you would like to have?
Oh my goodness. Actually, I think I've said this before. I still want to learn how to dance. And one of the things that I'm going to do in retirement is I'm gonna take some dance lessons. Like I want to learn how to boogie, like really get down.
How fun. Is there
Yeah.
like a particular style or just free form? Just whatever.
And I'm gonna do a little bit of everything from hip hop. I want to learn to salsa. I want to learn to tango. I just I saw a movie True Lies some years back with Schwarzenegger, and just
Oh,
the ability to like command the dance floor and
yes.
have fun with it. Obviously, it's so great.
Oh, that just sounds so wonderful. Well, I can't wait to hear how that goes. We'll have to, hear about that down the road. Mike,
Yes.
are you a breakfast person?
I love breakfast. Probably one of my favorite meals of the day. And I don't know if people can see me, but they can. I'm definitely not missing any meals. But breakfast is such a variety of things that you can have. You can get a sweet breakfast that's in one dynamic, and depending on where you go, sometimes breakfast almost seems like dinner with what they'll serve, steak and eggs or anything. So it's always
Right.
exciting because it's never the same thing twice if you choose that way.
Right. And I'm it's sounding like you like a variety. Like one day you might like a little something on the sweet side, the next day not so much.
Exactly. And I like the fact that in our travels, a lot of times what they consider breakfast is always kind of a unique thing. I had an opportunity to go to Great Britain, and they had like beans and they had sausage and stuff. I was like, okay, this is almost like the beginnings of a barbecue, but I'll try
Yeah.
it. So and
Beans,
like
that's a little surprising.
I thought so too, but I figured if
Hey,
I'm
Mike, you
here, might as well.
just froze. I'm hoping we're going to take care of that momentarily here. You were telling us about your breakfast in Great Britain serving beans and sausage.
Hmm. Yeah,
Okay.
it was such a unique thing to have something like that, and so I like just anywhere you go to explore the culture and what breakfast means, and the start of a great day.
And I mean, I always see this in the movies, but do you think it's strange that they don't butter their toast as it comes out? They serve it like dry and then butter on the side, and if you want to butter it, you butter it.
Yeah, I have seen that, and it's not my normal thing, but I figured I would try it. And I'm a dipper, so it's like whatever I had on the
Yes.
plate is like is coming with my toast. So
That's right. I
uh,
like it. I like it. All right, what's a random fact most people don't know about you?
you know, it's interesting. People will talk to me, and they'll the last thing they will think is that I'm shy
Mhm.
because I'm willing to talk to people almost on a whim. But I think I I've used the ability to speak as almost a disarming thing for me, because as I'm talking to a person, I'm also kind of sizing them up and kind of having a reason and a way to talk through my anxieties for the moment and get over my shyness. So on the exterior, I don't appear shy, but I am.
I relate to that completely. I really do. And here I am, talking quote unquote for a living, and I feel like I could definitely be really shy, for
Yep,
sure. Yeah.
yep, most definitely.
All right, growing up, a movie or TV character that you wanted to be like.
It's funny. I've almost lived through TV. And I watched a lot of cop shows coming up. Beretta. It was
Brenda.
you know, uh, they hooked me from the
Yes.
theme, because back in the day, all the shows had such great theme music. So as soon as the theme came on, like you run into the one TV in the house, and the dude just seemed so cool. He had the great jacket, and he had the style and the charisma. It was just I liked it.
Right. And the detectives of that time frame, definitely in addition to the signature song, had something about them that made them very unique. Like Peter Falk always had on the trench coat,
Yeah,
Telly Savalas always had the Tootsie Pop going.
exactly. Like everybody had their thing, and so I resonated with that. I always wanted to kind of have. 'Cause I'm not usually a hat person, but I always wanted to have like something like that made me me. So I've been actually buying like some of the old school hats and stuff, the
Nice.
berets and all that stuff.
Nice. Love that. All right, Mike, we're doing the deep dive now. It's raining men. What do they really think? Let's riff on some questions. So, who did you look up to growing up?
I looked up to my grandfather a lot, and actually, I think I brought that up in a previous episode. He gosh, I would say he was just the most confident person that I had ever met and
Mm,
very assured of himself. And I don't know if he really was that person, but he just, you knew from the moment that you saw him, like that guy knows what he's doing. He was a businessman, he was willing to take the risk of just going out every day and making it work.
right.
Always dressed well, he always had on a button
Mm,
up shirt, had a jacket with him, hat. Just he just always seems so well put together.
Love that about him. Yes. And I do recall you bringing him up in some of our past conversations. And yes, love Grandpa. What did we call him? What did we call him?
It's interesting because he's not my blood grandfather, but I still always called him Grandpa.
Grandpa. Okay.
Calvin Williams. He was just a dynamic gentleman.
Well, good for him. It's just so interesting. You never know the impact you're going to have. And he just went through his life being him. And yet here we
Hmm.
are talking about him all these years later.
Hmm.
That's great. Okay. So a man that currently inspires you. So Grandpa did inspire you. Is there somebody else that inspires you today?
It's interesting because I would say that he's probably closer to my age range. Well, certainly much more than my grandfather. Will Smith. You know,
Ah,
coming up. Like I said, he's about my age. So some of the stuff that you would see in his shows, like the Fresh Prince and stuff like that, I
right.
kind of wanted to be that. He always seemed like he was having fun, but I admired him as an actor, and I kind of just followed a lot of his personal side as what they would show out there, and just saw him pretty much grow up along with me. It almost seemed like if I met the guy, we'd be good friends.
Right.
But even when like it got to the, I mean, I hate to use the word controversial, but you go to the Academy Awards where
Right.
he had that event that kind of changed some of how the world may have seen him.
Right.
However, I say in that moment, he was willing to stand on the convictions that he had for the moment, and then even after that, was able to kind of reinvent himself. Like even now, he's like going back to the music and working through um, things that people may have seen as a mistake or not, but just being genuinely himself and continuing to not let anything stop him.
Right. And not letting that one event define him. Yeah,
Absolutely.
gosh, I can't even imagine being in that kind of a fishbowl of a life,
No.
where everything you say or don't say or don't do is just magnified.
Hmm. And that's how
Wow.
I have to look at, what the perceived stardom would be is like, I, well, and I try not to judge people too harshly because I don't want that upon myself. But I looked at like, say, if I was in a bar and somebody had said something to my wife, and I slapped the guy. For the most part, the most I could see is talking to a cop for a little bit in evening in jail, and if that, and that would have been it. There'd be some people that would talk about it. Oh my gosh, this guy walked up, smacked this dude. No one knows me, so it would never follow me. But
Right.
something like that, he doesn't. he and people in the limelight don't really get a chance to just be people. They have
Yeah.
to be what the world thinks they should be all the time.
Right. Yeah, that's a lot of pressure. That sure
Yeah.
is. So what do you think makes a man a man?
I think being willing to not let everything about what people say as a man define you. And
Mm.
it sounds like a long-winded way of saying this, but I'll try to get through it. When we're boys, we're often told, at least from my generation, we're supposed to be strong and not cry and don't back down from a fight, protect the women. And then you go a little further, and then they want us to kind of, you see on the TV how the older men are perceived as like charming and able to attract women and all that stuff. So you try to be all of these things, and if you're not all or any of these things, sometimes you find yourself, feeling ill at ease. Like, well, gosh, am I? So I think the ability to be a man is realizing that you're human first,
Mm.
and that what you decide is going to be your definition of masculinity should be more defined by how you feel and not by
Mm.
what everybody is putting upon you. Like boys don't wear pink. Well, who says? Um,
Exactly.
Men can't cry. Sometimes after I've cried, I felt much better than I had before. Not being weak, but I think sometimes embracing the fact that our flaws and our weaknesses allow us to build and navigate and make strength where there was weakness. So you can't have strength where there was not once a weakness to build upon.
Oh, that's such a good point. Mm. Yes, I like that. Wow, that is very profound. Okay, and that was some great, that was a super full, wonderful answer. Okay, Mike, what moves you?
What moves me? I'm going to say it's always been the arts in some way.
Mm.
Um, I can listen to a song that I've listened to my entire life, and I can concentrate on one instrument and go through it, and pick the next instrument and go through it. I can feel what the artist was trying to do, and it's like you go on a journey every time with them. And I feel the same way with movies. And you look at a painting, you go to museums and stuff like that, and you just find yourself immersed in what a person's perception of
Mm.
a moment is. A song is usually a description of how someone felt about something. Same thing with acting and all of that. So the arts always take me on the journey with them. I've been in a movie before, and you do the nail biting and stuff like that. And you almost feel like you were in that with them. And the same thing when we went to a museum once, and you find yourself standing and looking at a sculpture and almost lost in a moment in the details. Like, gosh, how can someone do this? How can someone be so into something so deep that they can create such a thing of beauty? So yeah, the art moves
Mhm.
me.
And I think that's part of why we're able to create is, one, to express, but then also to share whatever that expression, how that comes out and how we express, and to be able to share that so others can have their own reaction or, yeah, it's actually a really beautiful part of life. I agree.
I agree too.
Okay, for lack of a better term, what is something that pisses you off?
I think what pisses me off these days is people's need for everybody to think and to be like them.
Mm.
Everybody feels that their opinion or how their friends think or how someone else that whatever they agree with should be the rule, and they leave very little room for anyone to just exist.
Mhm.
And I just don't think that's fair. If you go into and I won't go down the politics rabbit hole, but just that if I'm on this side of it, it's not that, oh well, that person can be on the side of it. Like, no, they're wrong. If all they feel all men should be strong. It's like, so weakness is bad. So it's like they leave no room for any variety for anything but them. And I don't like that at all.
Right. I agree. I feel like I think in our lifetime it feels particularly divisive right now
Mhm.
politically, and that if you don't believe like I do, then, you know, you're not well thought of.
True.
Yeah, it's very frustrating. It's very sad. What's something you want women to know about men?
I think that what women don't know about men is that we're very busily navigating what everybody thinks a man should be.
Uh,
And it can be almost heartbreaking when we don't reach that criteria. Maybe not visibly, but if you're supposed to be, physically strong as a man, and you're not, somewhere inside you're thinking, well, gosh, I'm not a complete man. Or if you're not able to be the guy, the protector, or if you're not able to just be whatever society has defined us as being men, because it's changed dramatically since I was a child about what the perception is. It's like if you're too strong, you can be perceived as a jerk. Well, in some
mm,
other situations where if you're not soft enough, it's like, oh, you've got no heart. And you have to realize that under the surface, yes, men and women are different, but we're just people. And just we're constantly checking ourselves for, am I manly enough? And then in the same breath, we're going, well, what does that mean today? So, just we are less sure of ourselves than we appear on the surface. So give us
mm.
a little grace to continue to try and to navigate what it is to be a man.
That's a really good thing to know as a woman about a man, that that perception and that expectation, that level of that is there and constantly being evaluated and assessed.
Mhm.
Wow.
Um, and I think that honestly, my wife says sometimes to me, it's like, well, as a man, what do you think about this? And my joking reply is, well, I've never been a woman. Um, so so the same way, men, I don't think necessarily always understand women because we're too busy trying to sort through what we think a woman should be. And sometimes if we just pay attention to the person that's
Mm,
in front of us, all the other things will fall in place. It's like,
right.
shove our definition aside and just pay attention to the person, and then the woman or the man, whatever that person is going to be is just going to be. And we
Right.
learn more when we put aside our preconceived notions of what a person is.
Right. And I like the theme that's, kind of been woven throughout this entire conversation for you is really consider the person first before
Mhm.
you assign all these things you think about how they're supposed to be or what have you. What
Absolutely.
advice would you give to, I know you have sons, what advice do you give to them about becoming a man?
Um, our recurrent theme on this one seems to be expectations. Set what your expectations are for your life. Coming up, trying to be a grown up, we had these ideas of what it was like to be defined as successful. I would say to my boys, my men, they're all older now, be happy first. The rest of it is going to follow. We often, when we meet somebody, 90% of what will, hey, what do you do? Or if we haven't seen somebody for a while, what are you doing these days? So, have you bought a house? Do you have a new car? And the real thing I would say is, are you happy? Are you doing what is working for you? So seek that first. Whatever that is, and everything else is going to be a joyful add-on. And even the disappointments in life, if you're going in the direction for things that are fulfilling you, then life's little inconveniences will seem just that, just minor and inconvenient.
Right. And let me ask you a clarifying question. When you say being happy, are you talking about sort of fulfilling your purpose, or are you talking about kind of your state of mind, emotion?
A little of both. I have looked back on times where we'll go with like career. The expectation when I was coming up was you make sure you get a job that's stable, that has benefits, so you can take care of yourself and raise a family. And some of that along the way was, well, gosh, so busy trying to satisfy those few criteria that I got into a job in the beginning that I may not have chosen originally. I
Mm.
got into this job because it fit these bills, and I forgot to continue to seek the things first that like I was a musician first. I was a photographer first, but you become afraid to chase the dreams for chasing what people that you respect told you that you should do first. Well, I honestly do. I admire my parents for the foresight to look for my stability. But at the same time, I think that I put a lot of myself aside while I was trying to fulfill what they are expecting of me. So,
Right.
to clarify, seek what you want in your life above what you feel that others are shaping you that you should do. And then with that, you're going to find in the job, in the relationships, and all that. If you're looking out for what is going to be fulfilling to you, then you can have a happy life. I don't mean like laughing every day, but you're living life with less regret because you're trotting a path that you chose.
Right, and I think that was probably with each generation. I mean, I think look back to our grandparents' time, that was not even on the table. I mean, you just got a job and
Mhm.
you worked, and then maybe our parents maybe had a little more choice, and then we had a little more choice. Now our kids have even more choice, and our message to them is, really go fulfill that whatever that spark, that thing that you have, try to make a life around that.
That's exactly it.
Yeah. Is there anything you want to say in conclusion?
Um, I can say you've with these recurrent shows, you've made me feel more important to be heard. And I've listened to some of the other shows that you've done with other people, and it's a gift for what you bring out of people. I don't know that you know that,
Oh my
because
gosh, Mike, I just feel so verklempt right now. You saying
we're
that.
we're
What?
all people, and then we look to our stars and the people that we look up to in this world, and they get interviewed en masse. And you kind of, well, we care what they think, but you care what we think. And
Yeah.
it allows us to feel like, gosh, somebody out there really wants to hear my story. And so I
Oh,
appreciate you
wow.
for, you had me back here a few times. It just makes me, it gives me that drive to continue to push forward, because it's like, yeah, somebody's going to want to hear about this again.
Thank you, Mike. That's very, very, I'm deeply, deeply moved beyond any kind of words I could capture, truly. Thank you so much. Now, where can people find you or do you want to be found?
I'm still at the same Instagram page, Tall Bald Mike Photography. And I actually have not been posting as many photos as I'd like, but I'd like that to change now that retirement is on the rise.
Yeah.
Um, I'm going to be able to see my grandson more, so you'll see more pictures of him and my travels. And
Good.
yeah, that's where I am right now.
Right. And for the listener, I will attest mightily about what an amazing photographer Mike is, what a great eye he has. And so, yeah, be sure and follow him and check out his stuff. Mike, wow, what a pleasure. I just feel so honored to have had this time with you, and I look forward to the next time.
Likewise. Thank you so much.